right, welcome Jonathan. Welcome to Jammin with Jonathan. Sunday morning fun. John said he had some juice this week on a few key topics, so let's see what the juice is.
So my juice behind this week is around the mental health aspects during the pandemic and during these times. In one light is because it is I am experiencing my in my own perspective that it takes real effort to stay healthy and
Yeah.
to stay clear mentally, and to not get sucked in and bogged down with negative thinking and negative emotion.
You mentioned gaslighting.
I did. I did. Because on there are two thinking patterns involved in that. There are the one. It's hard not to get stuck in cognitive distortions. I've been releasing a lot of. I've been making a lot of videos about those because I find them really interesting. Which essentially, the cognitive distortions are ways that our minds trick us into believing something that that isn't true, or it's a way of thinking that our minds convince us that something of something that isn't true, and the mode that it does that is distorted. It's a distorted way of thinking, and the primary reasons that it happens is to use negative cognition, to use negative emotion, and to keep us feeling bad about ourselves. Those are the three kind of primary methods, or the main fuel behind cognitive distortions. Now, this gaslighting that I mentioned earlier, this seems to be a primary tool that creates cognitive dissonance. And I shared an article that cognitive dissonance is when there are two separate things that seem to conflict with each other, that are in one's life, and in order to live in a way that I can have both of these things, the two thoughts kind of create some sort of dissonance, and I have to resolve that in some way. And I can resolve that in a healthy way, or I can resolve this in an unhealthy way, and that is where that's where I would judge the gaslighting comes in. That's where some of the distortions come in, and that's where that sort of thinking kind of leads in. So I guess we'll jump right in.
Yeah, that article mentioned Trump supporters, and there was a lot of politics, a lot of political underpinnings in that article. So, and the gaslighting happens with people. You can gaslight yourself, but I think the gaslighting you were referring to is where people try to distort your reality so that they can get an advantage over you somehow, and their political position then can take. It's a tactic. It's a tactic they use to get their political position supremacy over yours.
Yes. Excuse me. I'm pulling it up over here. And I do want to be, and I do want to be careful in. I do want to be careful in this sense. There are some parts of this that I do want to make the case that there are political matters, right? But then there's parts of this that they're just flat out scientific matters. they're not political in my judgment, right? Like that they're just, it's a scientific matter, and it's not a political discussion. It's a scientific discussion, and it's like I want to accept this or I don't. And then there are others, yeah, like I said, it's political. And so here's the article is saying that like the dissonance created, so in the scientific sense, right, the dissonance is created in the two places of I want to well, we have a pandemic that is created difficulty in living, and there's some unhealthy there's a lot of unhealthy virus, and it creates some restrictions, and we're trying to resolve that, and there's a good number of restrictions on our lifestyle, right, that's put in. The other event that seems to clash against that for some is, or for many, not just some, we want life to go back to normal.
Yeah.
I don't want to stay in my house in quarantine anymore. I'm tired of theaters being closed down. I'm tired of there's a lot of things I'm tired of.
Right? For you as a musician, you're tired of a lot of your livelihood options being shut down. A lot of musicians are beside themselves now because they don't have all of their performance options.
Yeah, but I really miss live music.
Yeah,
I really miss it. That was that'd be the highlight of or the aural highlights of my year, especially through the year of listening to 5 to 11-year-olds play the recorder, and then to hear professionals at different times. It's like anytime I would hear a professional chorus, or like the time we met and we heard the Aeolians,
yes,
choir. I mean, I like it hits my ears and my brain just kind of melts. And in that case, I was so blown away that I had to emotionally process what I heard for a long time after. But I miss it. I miss being able to go out and to play music. It's a big part of how I express myself to the world, right? That's a big part for me to do that. I've had to adjust with that. I've had these online concerts, or I've had 2 online concerts. I've taken all of my in-person lessons. I've had to make them online, right? Summer camps that we did that I used to do in person, that were way easier in person. I've had to fix those and do those up. They're all online now, right? And I've gained a number of new skills. I didn't know I could get really confident with making these videos and all that. And it turns out I can get pretty good at it. It was pretty fun.
Are these videos something I should pop up here in the information section below this video? Are some of the videos you're making relevant?
Like ways that I've adjusted? Sure.
Yeah, that'd be good. I'll put them. Could you also right now read the title of that article, and I'll put a graphic up at this point in the video so people can find it.
Absolutely. This is the role of cognitive dissonance in the pandemic. Yeah.
Good.
And that's from the Atlantic.
Good.
Yeah. So that's my want to get back into my lifestyle, and I can't.
Yes.
There's nothing with music right now that's going to be one of the last things probably to go back to normal, as far as the social and economy or whatever. But so that creates a dissonance.
Yeah.
Our brains naturally, like regardless of what happens, our brains will naturally look to resolve those dissonances, right? And I want to read how I'm going to read his portion of this. He says, so the cognition, I want to go back to work in my favorite bar and hang out with my friends, is dissonant with any information that suggests that these actions might be dangerous, if not to the individuals themselves, then to others with whom they interact. How to resolve this dissonance? People could avoid crowds and parties and bars or wear a mask, but they could jump back into their former ways and preserve their belief, but to preserve their belief that they're smart and competent and that they would never do anything foolish to risk their lives, they will need some self-justifications, claim that masks impair their breathing, deny that the pandemic is serious, or to protest that their freedom to do what they want is paramount. You're removing our freedoms and stomping on our constitutional rights by these communist dictatorship orders. That was a woman at the Palm Beach County Commissioner's hearing. Masks are literally killing people, said the South Dakota governor, Kristi Noem. More freedom, not more government, is the right answer, says Mike Pence.
Yes.
And he also added, the right to peacefully assemble is enshrined in the First Amendment of the Constitution, as he was encouraging people to gather at one of the Trump rallies. If I'm adamant to want to maintain my view of myself is like being I can't say being self-righteous. If I want to, I guess if I want to stay pure in my own thoughts, right? Maybe I'm being too tactful, but there's still the dissonance of these things are dangerous. But no, I'm still pure in my own thoughts, and I want to get back to my own life. My brain has to resolve these things. It has to.
I see some of the same problems with people, and they're morally torn when they know that the Democratic establishment over 40 years has done nothing to help poor people, and that nobody in the mainstream blue diehard Democratic Party right now gives a fuck about working people, and yet they still vote for these blue dog Democrats, and they're looking at themselves. And I have to say to you, looking at, to these people looking in the mirror, your comfort, your class, your position, whether you're black or brown or purple, if you are comfortable, like you can be a black person and be comfortable and be high enough in the society, and a lot of the leaders right now in black leadership in Black America think of themselves as upper middle class or higher, and they're like, okay, I don't care if Biden sucks. I don't care if Biden is going to make things worse, not only for black people but also for all poor people. I'm still going to vote for him because my own position in the status quo is maintained, and I care more about maintaining my class and my comfort than I do about actually giving a shit about poor people. And so you see this same dissonance, you see the same clash. And I look and I see it when I post on my wall. I say, rich assholes for Biden, or wine track moms for Biden. And I'll put it on my wall, put it on my story, and I'll get all these wine track moms that are my friends on Facebook pissed off. How can you say that? Well, dear, well, Karen, it's because it's true. It's true. You're voting for Biden out of class. And if a black woman on my friends list looks at me and says, no, I'm not, I say, look, you can't vote for Biden in good conscience. You can't vote for Biden unless you're justifying it by your own position, your own status in society. And I've actually had that conversation with a few black moms, and they don't like it either. They don't like it any more than the white moms. But that's what we're looking at. We're looking at this horrible conflict that you're mentioning, because people are at odds with themselves. They know what morals should look like, but yet they're going to vote for this racist, rapist, crime bill originator, and they absolutely know that, like you said, some of this stuff is just factual. It's just facts, Jack. And they're still going to vote for somebody they know is going to do more harm than good. And so you're talking about masks, and I know that's really in the front, and so we can keep talking about masks and the Trump supporters and acting like, well, if you're for Trump, then you have to make fun of people who wear masks and all that. But I think that cognitive dissonance goes really deep. I think there are a lot of other issues you can jump to from the mask issue and the social distancing issue.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it does. The um, so the so here is so if I try to make the jump between the two, right? Um, the so the dissonance between those two things, for the people who wear masks, right? Or who do or don't wear masks. The people who don't, in this case, from this article, in order to preserve the belief that I want to get back to my life and I'm not wrong, this I have to create a distortion to resolve the dissonance that this is that the science and that the danger and that whatever else, right? And whatever you want to throw in here to resolve this dissonance, there has to be a distortion.
Yeah.
Because I've created some attachment to this lifestyle. The same is true for whoever we vote for, right? The same is true for if it's red or blue. The if we have things in our lives, and you mentioned class, if we have things in our lives that we hold to and that we want to keep, and that we've sort of created an emotional, you said, comfort around, right? And that's at my core. And then I want to say, well, I stand for this, but my candidate is against it. There's dissonance. So in order for me to resolve that dissonance, I can either look at what's in my emotional core and ask questions and look to try to resolve these issues, or I can just cover it up with the distortion and say, no, he doesn't do these things, or no, these things don't happen, or just not look at it at all and flip the argument back and start yelling and finger pointing and
Vote shaming.
And whatever it is, I think that there's always these dissonances within each person that has two sides. I think that the distortions come in when there is an attachment that is made in some of the, like within some of the outcomes, because the attachment that's created inside these outcomes kind of foggies up the clarity to be able to see what's really there, and it foggies up the clarity to be able to see well, what's going to be useful, how much of the data is useful or not.
Yeah, they don't care. They just don't care. They don't want to look at it.
Well, who of these candidates is useful or not, or are they both the same? Like, are they two of the same people? The attachments that I create to either of these scenarios can foggy up my view and cause me to resolve that with a. It can cause me to resolve with distortions.
Yeah, if you're a mom who lives in South Carolina and you've been a Democrat for 40 years, you've got some deep attachments, some deep connections, and then people tell you in the Black Caucus, the leaders say, well, Biden, Biden, he's okay. And you're like, all right, but my children tell me otherwise. My children tell me the facts, and I know they're telling me the truth. So you just end up with people with their ears covered and their eyes covered, and they just don't want to see. I think that's the biggest thing that happens with masks too. I think people just refuse to look at. I'm not listening. I'm not listening. When you start to tell them facts, that's the biggest one I see. Is I'm not listening. I'm just not going to hear you.
Well, I think it's easier on. I think it's easier on something like masks, because the information was given to us all in plain sight.
Yeah.
And it was given to us all in the last 3 months, and it is very obvious, right?
Right.
I mean, it's new. It's new. At the very same time, we were all handed the same thing at the same time by leading experts, and then we all had to wait the same amount of time, and then at the same time, we all got sick of it, and all of a sudden, there just came a notion that maybe all these scientists are wrong.
Yeah.
Like maybe they're making it up. Maybe it's a hoax, or maybe it's whatever it is. And those same scientists that were figuring things out in the initial run of things are still saying the same things. Like the science, it hasn't changed, right? I mean, they're still learning it, but the caution and the danger in that still hasn't changed. But our push to get back to where we are, or to get back to where we were, has. The voting and what you're talking about, that's a history of systemic thinking that you're applying it with the same vigor, and I get that, but there's to be seen at the same level of clarity is really maybe for some of the Karens who have been there just as long, or who are obviously blinding themselves or whatever, but there are a lot of people who just want out of what we have currently. I see, like that's what I see.
And facts be damned.
In a lot of millennials, because like that's, and not like I'm like I'm not really a zennial. What would they call me? A zennial. Like
you're
I think
a zennial, yeah.
I'm like that range, right? And especially like people of color, like in this age group. I don't speak for all of us, right? And, a lot of us say that a lot, but there is a lot. There's a lot of people of color that don't have any hope for Biden. Like, no, it feels similar to 2016, when it was like we didn't have much hope for Hillary, right? We had the same on the surface with what you were saying. Had the same surface of don't trust her, but looking at Donald, we think this would be a better scenario, and then
But the people who are desperate in
voted.
terms of class don't say that. So whatever, people of color notwithstanding, if they're in desperate straits, if they're white in desperate straits, they don't come to that same conclusion. Oh well, Hillary's at least better than Donald. Oh well, Biden's at least better than Donald. When you're at the bottom of the pecking order in terms of class, whatever color you are, you can't say that. And if you're in solidarity, if you're in alliance with people who are poor, desperate for Medicare, desperate for student loan relief, desperate for a life where you're doing better than just going paycheck to paycheck, barely keeping ahead, in those circumstances, you can't just say, well, at least she's better than Donald. That you can do that. You can be a person of color and do that if you're not hurting. But if you're hurting, whatever color you are, you can't do that. And so then we all have to look, because we're not all actually poor. I identified more with poor people when I became a part-time truck driver. I could see see the how it felt more than I could as a professor, but I'm still not in total empathy. I'm empathetic, but I'm not hurting like the people at the bottom rungs are hurting. But I'm in solidarity with them. I'm with them politically. I'm not going to vote for some corporate sock puppet just because they're better than Donald Trump. If we're really in solidarity with poor people, with the poor people's march people that Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King were talking about, we can't do it. We can't vote for the smiling fox. Mm-hmm. We know the snarling wolf is bad, but we can't just turn around and vote for the smiling fox, quoting Malcolm X. We've got to get over that shit. And so whether we can be people of color and look at, okay, well, at least he's better than Donald. But that's a class privilege. That's a privileged place. If you're really desperate, you can't do that. You can't just say lesser evil is going to work out. It's not. It's not. That neither option are anywhere like acceptable if you're really in solidarity with the working poor.
Yeah, that was the case in the primaries. Like we made a huge push with the candidates that I in my view, that I believe would. I mean, I didn't think Biden almost disappeared from the race for a time. Okay, now this is in my judgment now, right?
Yeah, he was a joke.
There was a time that he just disappeared.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, is he gone now? Like, is this really going to happen? And he just seemed to phase out of the picture, and it seemed to be more of it was like a Sanders and Warren and Klobuchar and
Mayo Pete.
Yeah, like it was like but Sanders was leading the charge, and there was, at least in the discussion, there was more talk about the poor, and with someone like Bernie, who's been saying the same things for the past, I don't know, the dude's like 1,000 years old, but he's literally been saying and doing the same thing. I mean, he's got a level of integrity with that, and the only person up there that could say he marched with Dr. King, I believe, like that. I think of those Democratic nominees, but that was the big push, right? That was the big push at that time, and I want to say, I don't know how that fell apart, but we looked at we know the voting statistics, right? We know what the voting statistics
fraud.
were.
It was fraud, and it was collusion.
It was. I wouldn't doubt that. I don't even think I need to put a tinfoil hat on to say that. Like, I wouldn't doubt that for 1 second that the DNC the whole time wanted to get Bernie Sanders out of the picture. They wanted to give him the limelight to say, okay, hey, like, all right, we hear a lot of younger people, especially, right, saying this guy would be great. We want to make you feel like this is something that's a possibility, but we need to get him out of here because, he's going to ruin something.
He's going to threaten the oligarchs. He's going to threaten the slaves are going to get restless, and the slaves are going to stop staying on the plantation if Bernie's in charge. They're going to start to form unions. They're going to flex their muscles. We can't have that. We got to keep everybody working. So we can be in solidarity with people who are protesting George Floyd's murder. We can do all that. We can say all the right things about LGBTQ rights. We can say all the right things about Medicare for all even. But one thing we can't have, well, not for Medicare for all, because that would really take the thumb of oppression off of the working poor. When it comes down to it, the bottom line for those in favor of maintaining the status quo is we got to keep the working people in this difficult, insecure place. And so our donors aren't going to like it if somebody like Bernie's in charge. Our donors aren't going to like it if the workers start to get ideas that their lives mean something. So not only do they not want black people to get the idea that their lives matter, they absolutely don't want poor working people, essential COVID people. They don't want them to get the idea that their lives matter, because then they could start flexing their leverage and get better lives for themselves. Now, if you say there's a difference between the primaries and the general election, if you say, okay, I don't know what happened, but I know what happened. It was moms, white moms, comfortable Karen moms, and it was black moms too, in the South especially, but all over in the Rust Belt too. Black moms and white moms said, okay, we listen to mainstream media, we listen to CNN and MSNBC and the Washington Post and the New York Times, and we believe what they say. We believe what our like Jim Clymer, we believe what our black leaders who have been paid off by the oligarchs say. And so we're just gonna go with Biden over Bernie. Barack Obama wades in and says, okay, Amy, okay, Pete, time to clear the way, time to get out of the way and let Sleepy Joe see if he can do it. And it was collusion and voter fraud. Again, you don't need a tinfoil hat. And so all of these forces came together to get Bernie out of the way. So you can say, okay, that's not fair. I still voted for Bernie. Even after he withdrew, I still voted for him in my state. But if you won't keep going and say it's immoral, it's wrong to vote for Biden in the general election, you're still coming at it from a place of privilege, from a place of class comfort. Because if you really come at it from a place of solidarity with poor and working people, not only are you not going to vote for Biden in the general election, you're going to strike. You're going to protest. You might even riot. You might even get out there and challenge the feds when they're trying to take people off the street in unmarked minivans in Portland, Oregon. You might actually, on a daily basis, get out there and challenge the status quo in the streets. That's what solidarity looks like. You're not going to vote for Joe fucking Biden in any election. Not in the primaries, not in the general election, if you're really in solidarity with the working poor.
So there are a lot of working poor in this area,
DC,
in the DC metro, and there is a large number of them are Hispanic, and a large number of them are new to the U.S., right? Like brand new. These are a lot of the families that I've taught and their kids and all that for the last however many years. And well, since I moved here, the large notion in the last 4 years expressed from a lot of these families is that they want this out, right? Because in the same light that in the same or similar light that when George Floyd hit, right? Black people black people see that happen, and for us, it's upsetting. It's and we've seen it for a long time. Something happens in mainstream white America that the light bulb goes off, that there's a systemic race issue, particularly with Black people. And now all of a sudden there's pushback with suddenly, like, we're allowed to question the police. Like, now we're allowed to publicly have pushback with the police and question those things. And now that is like there was a window that opened for that, and there's been more allies. There's been more non-Black allies now than there ever have been. And yes, now there are still it's great that there's public movement and there's public things happening, but there are things on the ground that still need to happen. Look, it's great that Nike takes that momentum and moves with the whole Redskins thing, right? And now they're going to change the name. It's great that a lot of places put Black Lives Matter on the walls. Those things, like, I believe those things are necessary. I believe the public eye portion of those things actually need to happen, right? But I think that it is the actual boots on the ground application of those things. It's still funneling down. We still have people saying, hey, we need actual action on the floor. We need these things to actually hit legislation. We need things to actually hit what your company is doing. We need person to person to actually ask themselves these questions.
Yeah, we need
In the same light, Hispanic people became public enemy number one in the last 4 years. Like, in the last 4 years, now that it's not Middle Eastern people anymore, they're like number 2 in red America, but Hispanic people became red public enemy number 1. The protesting days in the last 4 years that when Hispanic workers didn't go to work, there was nobody at our school. Like, nobody. Like,
wow.
That was a blatant, like, that was a blatant and clear protest against the public allowance of what's happening in the messages that we're getting from the White House. The reason I think those things are important, it's because it actually does bleed down into what happens in the public eye. Like, his Trump's nonsense that he spouts, and his way of thinking and his way of communicating things has encouraged a lot of those people who feel that way to feel more empowered in their mode of thinking, right? And to loop back to what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
These distortions and these dissonances, they used to be they used to not be as large, I guess, as large or as obvious with these level of matters. Like, hey, something scientific, right? Something scientific. If you if you wear a mask, you're less likely to get sick. Oh, well, that's your opinion. Now that is a popular thought, and it's a more public thought because there is someone in our leadership that gives that voice and that gives that encouragement. There's someone in our leadership that feeds and doesn't denounce white nationalism or white supremacy, and so groups that are blatantly that way, whether it's the KKK or whether it's just other just white supremacist groups that would say they're white supremacist groups, like not hidden, right? But like that, I would actually say it. They can rally behind this person because he knows that he has voters like that. They can rally behind this person and be very open and encouraged by what's happening, right? And people can be encouraged and say, no, your lives don't matter. Like, I can hang on to the Confederacy and for what, right? Like, I mean, in all actuality, it doesn't, like, I mean, it really means nothing, right? But it's like a symbol to say we're tired of people of color. Like, that's essentially it. It's not something that you're hanging on from this war for some section of the country that was alive for a little bit of time. Like, it's all a public view and a public message to oppress a people group, and that has a real impact on the people group. Like where somebody gets spit on in public, or all these videos of people getting taped with this Karen stuff, right? Or a cop feeling like, oh, let me, like, yeah, I am empowered to kneel on somebody or to say some dumb stuff to somebody else, or like other racist acts. When things get out to the public eye, right, or when things are empowered to the public, people feel enlivened to live in a certain way. So, so yes, yeah, to get rid of this, right, to get it out of the picture for right now, to say that there's nothing behind that, to say that there's nothing, or to say that there's no value behind that. I have to disagree.
Yeah,
like,
I would disagree too.
Like I mean 1,000%, because it's been terrible for these people. I honestly don't know how. I mean, it was a blessing. I don't know how the George Floyd thing became what it was in this time. Maybe the pressing nature of COVID and all that stuff, and then it just hit us, right?
It just blew up.
But now it needs to happen with Hispanic people. Because they're a part of our country too, right? That a large part, it needs to happen with Middle Eastern people, because they're a large with Middle Eastern Americans, because they're a large part of our country as well. Like, right now, there's still the big public image of, hey, the history of America is white, and everybody else is just mixing in. Yeah. Like, that's the image that says, hey, this is public.
Yeah.
And everybody else is saying, the hell, it's not. Like, that's not the image. The history of America is Native American who needs the same push, and the best we can give that group right now is the Redskins. Like, that's the best we can do for that group, and they've been the most peaceful of protesters in history right now, with these pipelines and with their sacred grounds and with all this other stuff, and they haven't been as public with the push. But that's the baseline history, and this is the quietest group. The history of America is the black and brown people that were working, that built this country on their backs. Like, that was the history is in the mixture of these groups. I have European blood in my. I have European DNA. Like the mixture of American or whatever. It's in my blood. It's a mixture of. I'm largely African, right? 88.8%. I'm 33% Nigerian, right? 88.8% is like sub-Saharan South African. It was like it was like 9.4% comes from somewhere in Europe. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, clearly there were some things that happened in my history that mixed my, that was a mixture of races in my genealogy or in my family tree. But the history of our country is mixed, and the history of our country it's not what's being proclaimed right now. Talk about make America great again, like that. We need I think it's a big deal to get this out.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So
I would argue that, and the poor Hispanic working class here has a lot of charge to get that out of the picture as well. And these are families that I'm connected to out here.
Me too. I've got families around me too. Same thing. Lancaster area, where I live downtown. Same thing. But you gotta eventually. You mentioned Nike. You mentioned other big companies. They don't give a fuck about the working poor. So they come in and they say, okay, we've got Donald Trump, we've got systemic racism, we've got police brutality, we've got people chanting "build the wall." So Nike says, we know that's bad, so we're going to lend our ad campaign, we're going to lend our moral feelings to go along with the public sentiment of black and brown people and every other oppressed people. But are we actually going to raise people's wages? Are we actually going to change their medical status? Are we going to give them debt relief? So then it just becomes lip service. So let's say the families that we both know, like in my neighborhood in Lancaster where I lived, it was at least 80% Hispanic. And people saying, some of the Hispanic families saying, well, I think Donald Trump is better than the Democrats, So what you have is people are being harmed. We know that, and the ones who know better that are more informed know that Donald Trump is behind a lot of that harm. And so you've got people knowing that Donald Trump is terrible, but the cognitive dissonance is, and going back to the snarling wolf versus the smiling fox, even though you know that Donald Trump is the devil, even though you know that build the wall is a horrible thing to say and making, but you also have to admit then that Barack Obama and Joe Biden put as many people or more in cages than Donald Trump has. So what you have to admit is those smiling foxes have done at least as much harm to Hispanic people as the snarling wolves. So yeah, I'm a Hispanic person. I don't like Donald Trump. I'm going to vote against Donald Trump no matter what. You're still voting for shit. Unless you figure out that there's no choice. There's no viable choice. There's no good choice. You're not going to solve this by voting. You're just not going to solve this by voting. So if you're a family in your, if you're one of the families that you teach, and you are a wonderful teacher, by the way, you do so much to help, every kid from every social station. You're not a status quo defender. You're absolutely in the right place. Your heart is in the right place when you're trying to help the kids, the constituency that you work for. I can't think of anybody better to do what you're doing. So I have to qualify that and make sure, that you and everybody understands that. But having said that, we still can't afford to let people think that there's a lesser evil that they should vote for because Donald Trump is so bad. We can't let people, if we're teachers, if we're educators, I don't think we should leave unchallenged people's assumptions that voting for anybody other than Donald Trump is a vote in solidarity with the working poor.
Mm.
We got to do some educating. And the big companies that come along and say all the right things, or the comfortable suburban people of color. There are comfortable suburban people of color that say we should vote for anyone but Trump, and they voted for Biden in the primaries. I'd say to them, no, we can't keep pretending that there's some acceptable lesser of two evils. We've got to get over this cognitive dissonance, and we have to say, and voting. We're not going to solve it by voting. We've got to get into the streets. We've got to be striking. We've got to not pay our rent. We've got to not pay our mortgages. We've got to not go to work if we're an essential worker. We have to be in solidarity with each other, because we're not going to solve it by voting. We're going to have to riot even to fix this. So just to blithely, if you're a family, if you're one of the Hispanic families in your school district who think, okay, I'm involved, I know that Donald Trump is the devil, I'm just going to vote for Joe Biden because that's what I think is the most socially conscious, conscionable thing to do. I think those assumptions have to be challenged.
Okay. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that notion that I don't disagree with the notion that the assumption needs to be challenged. Because when you see it yourself, like when you see something yourself, you see it 100% of the way, right? Like it's hard to bullshit you on anything, right? You've seen enough of it by now.
You can change my mind, though.
Well, yeah, because the authenticity hasn't changed, right? But you see you see through any BS that somebody can present with that, right? Not everybody does that. Like not everybody does that, and myself included. Not everybody knew like everything that came with previous presidents, Obama included.
Yeah, good point.
Aside from the major events of each presidency, right? Like Bush with within the war on Iraq and the towers, and then Obama and first black president Occupy, right? Like in the history books, like that's kind of like that's seemingly how it goes down. Like it's gonna be first black president, which again is a significant thing, but to what you're saying, and to the extent that I agree with, right? Like the Occupy protest, the part that the pushback is against, or the part that what they're protesting is legitimate, and it's the same thing that we're protesting with Trump that we saw happen in the middle of a pandemic, right? All the working class people are suffering. Oh, great! Let me bail out these corporations.
Yeah, perfect.
And then I'll think about $1,200 stimulus checks. I'll think about it, and then not only will I think about it, I'm gonna we're gonna really push and feed the mindset of, well, maybe people are going to be more convinced to wait on a stimulus check instead of going back to work. Like maybe we can make that a thing in the public and actually hear people who benefit from this stimulus check. And this is a poor working white class that will take these arguments and make them. And it's like, but you benefit from this. Like you benefit your family benefits from this. Like, why are you making these arguments? In the same light, I'm surmise that you're saying with the Hispanic family saying, well, Donald Trump isn't bad, and it's like, no, it is rough. I had to be educated about the number of Hispanic people in cages under the Barack Obama presidency, right? That was something I didn't know. I was in grad school when he took office. What was that? 2008, or he won in 2008, took office in 2009. Like, I had just started at Edinburgh, and I didn't know about that. Like, I didn't know about the things that were happening.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Happening with all that, and at the time, as a student, I knew what was speaking to me was what he was saying about education and student loan and college student loans, because Hillary was saying similar things. I didn't know much of her character at the time, but the places I was working before I started grad school, I was working as a resident director at a university, and Chelsea came to visit, and then Bill came to visit that same university, and they were just, hey, we're going to help college students, and your loans, we're going to take care of them. We're going to take care of them, blah, blah, blah. Shook his hand, looked me right in the eye, right? I felt the sparkle that he gives everybody when he does that. But eight years later, after the presidency, like, it seemed to take a very long time to get anything in motion with student loan debt relief.
There was never any intention that anything would actually get done. It was all intended. That's another topic for another day. But the duopoly, the Republicans and Democrats want exactly the same things. They just know how to work together and pretend to be enemies. But we have two right-wing parties, Republicans and Democrats are farther to the right economically and have more big donors. They're more aligned with the oligarchy than the Republicans, believe it or not. So if anything, the Democrats are farther to the right than the Republicans, and people don't want to hear that. But we've got two parties both working together on behalf of the donor class, and they don't have any intention at all of helping student loan relief or Medicare for all or federal jobs guarantee or anything that would actually help working class people. They're talking about it as though, and that's the whole controlled opposition idea, they talk about it as though they care. And then they try to persuade people that they care. And I was persuaded by Barack Obama. I voted for him twice. I was absolutely persuaded because he ran as a hope and change candidate. He ran as a populist. But the cynical feelings that I feel now about neoliberalism and about the Democratic Party have as much to do with him as they do with Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden, author of the crime bill. They're all horrible, horrible people. But I least wanted to believe that about Barack
Obama
and Michelle Obama. I wanted so badly for them to be good people. I tried so hard. There was so much cognitive dissonance, and it took me probably at least as long as you. A lot of my figuring this out has come in the last couple of years. And it's hard, it's painful. I don't want to believe it. I don't want to believe Bernie failed us when it comes down to the CARES Act. Like here's this huge stimulus bill, trillions of dollars to fucking bail out the big banks just the way Barack Obama did. And so here comes Congress. The Federal Reserve Bank can write as much money into existence as they need to bail out the big banks or to start wars, endless wars, or whatever they fucking want to do. Or they could bail out the American people and give them what they need to get through. This money, modern monetary theory, the Fed can write as much money into existence as it needs to do whatever it needs to do. Education, we could have good education. We could have whatever we decide. And so here comes the CARES Act. And what do they decide? They say, we're going to bail out the banks. We're going to bail out the corporations, and we're going to give crumbs. We're going to throw a few crumbs to the working class people. Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, they should have stood up to Leader Rashid. They should have, Pramila Jayapal, they all should have stood up and said, no, fuck no. You're not going to pass this with all this relief for the big banks and corporations without giving the workers more than crumbs. They all should have said no. They all should have stood up together and said no. And they didn't. And so that part of me wants to believe that anything Bernie Sanders does is great and that he couldn't fail us because he's such a great person. But no, Bernie, you failed us. You failed us. And you should have done better because you're supposed to be a progressive. This is hard for me. This is where my ability to change my mind against the cognitive dissonance comes into play, because I feel loyalty to my favorite politicians. But if they do the wrong thing, Bernie Sanders endorsed Joe Biden. And Joe Biden is as bad a politician in my mind because of the trade deals and the crime bill as Donald Trump. In my mind, based on my list of criteria, I can make the case that Joe Biden is not the lesser of two evils. And the families, the Hispanic families in your area would have a hard time. And it would take a long time to unpack it if they ever were going to understand where I'm coming from there. But you have to get over it. You have to get over that dissonance and that loyalty to your favorite people. And that includes your mentors. Like with me, if I fuck up and you want to feel loyalty to me, but it's obvious that I've sold out. It's obvious that I've surrendered all my values that matter. You have to abandon me. No matter how much you love me, you have to abandon me and say no. And that's what I'm in the process. I had to do that with Barack Obama. I really didn't want to think of him as cynically as I now do. And the betrayal hurts more when it's someone you love and admire. I loved and admired his family, his daughters, and everything about him. It was very painful to have to realize that he was one of the worst figures in history when it comes to the things that I most care about with regard to the working poor.
Yeah. There were a couple things that stuck out to me, and with that last part. You're not wrong with the mindset towards with the mindset and the action towards the working class poor, and what the Fed does. The Fed runs on debt, right? Not like actual money that it has, but it's like it's supported by debt. Like when it gives to these banks, these corporations and these banks and all that jazz, like they're waiting on the payout and the payback. My student loans that, like if I borrow this much and I pay back this much, I still owe this much, right? Like it's running on that. It's running on that debt.
The economy. Let's make a little clarification. The economy is bolstered by that debt. Baby boomer pensions are fueled by your student loan debt.
Yeah.
So yeah. The Fed's role is merely to loan money and to print money into existence. If Congress decided that we were going to spend money, even if we keep spending money on interventionary wars, if they decided that we were going to spend money on workers, on Medicare, on student loan debt relief and all that, they could do it without raising taxes. That's what a lot of people don't understand about the Fed, is if Congress agrees on our priorities, like they do, like the Democrats are just as willing to vote or more willing to vote for Trump's wars as the Republicans are, that's where they agree about war. They don't agree about helping workers. But if they did, you know, we could bring, the Fed could bring limitless numbers of dollars to the picture, and easily, because our economy is so thriving, we are such a wealthy country, easily could lift all of the workers out of poverty, easily could guarantee that everyone who wants a job could have an infrastructure job like green energy or building bridges or whatever, like the New Deal of FDR's era. Absolutely, if Congress decided that was a priority, if workers were a priority. That's why you have to look at all of the progressive politicians as well as all the neoliberal and neoconservative politicians. They're all assholes. They don't, none of them are willing to take a stand and go against the donor class and actually help workers. So what you said about the Fed, I just wanted to clarify a little bit that it's not exactly built on debt, even though debt is a big part of it. But baby boomer prosperity absolutely is built on student loan debt.
And that was that was the, I remember the statistics of, well, and there was more to it that we said, but the statistics of the voters from the primaries when we were talking about earlier, that age group, largely Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, 80%.
They're voting to maintain their privilege
in each state.
Yeah.
And the older you get, like I would guess.
Yeah, you're right.
The more you would have to gain, and I think the more you understand how those things play out. There are a lot of young people my age and younger, I think, that are starting to, they don't like the sales pitch person, right? Like we don't buy into the as easily with the, with the car salesman that has like the fake smile and all that stuff, and the door-to-door guy or whatever. It's a different age of that.
Your age is a lot more willing to identify and be in solidarity with poor people, because your generation is going to be less well off financially than the generations before you. So, and this has happened in the past. What's sad, like the hippies got old enough and they became more conservative when their financial aspects improved. What I'm hoping is that your age group won't get more conservative as you get older and more comfortable, that you'll keep your principles, because it hasn't happened very well in history so far. As people get older, they tend to sell out the poor people.
Well, why is that?
People vote for their own self-interest.
Well, I mean, yes, but do people do that in their upper age when they know that their time's coming? Are they doing that to pass on their wealth? Is that ever a part of that? Because a lot of the wealth that keeps the wealthy is generational. Like a lot of this is probably getting to a smaller percentage of the rich, but a lot of it's generational. Like they can pass down money. They can the mindset, the psychology of wealth, and people to say like, like this birthday, like my grandmother gave me this, or like, oh yeah, my mom gave me this, and dad this, and whatever, or I just worked for my dad for the summer, this time during college because I didn't know what else I was going to do, so I just made a few $1,000s doing this, and I'm just sitting there like, you did what? Can I work for your dad or something? Like, can I do this during the and there's other people who can say things like that from my experiences, but a lot of that wealth is generational, and I don't know how to. I wouldn't know how to satisfy, right? Say, like when I'm like 70s, 80s, and in the spirit of my mom, or like of wanting to, I want to make sure my kids, and then after me, like that they have better than I do, and all that stuff,
Yeah.
right? Say I'm well off, and all that.
Whatever you have, whatever your mom has, whatever your family has, is, it's a family. It's part of your tribe. You want your tribe to succeed. But if you don't care about workers, you're like, I just want them to keep doing their fucking jobs. I just want them to keep doing what they're supposed to do for me. And you could be a person of color with that shitty attitude.
So it's still a matter. Okay, so it still goes back to a matter of principle, which is like our last conversation.
Yeah, if you're comfortable or wealthy, even like say you're wealthy, but you still don't want an economic system that redlines black families in Philadelphia or anywhere in the suburbs, like you just say, morally, I'm not down with that. Morally, I don't want to be, or morally, I don't want to live in a country that bombs the shit out of black and brown people the world over. I'm not down with that. I mean, I'm comfortable and I know the system benefits me, but I can't look in the mirror and be okay with myself. I can't live with myself if I know that I'm part of this system. So yeah, I want to take care of my family. I want to make sure my kids are provided for, but damn, we're the biggest bullies in the world. We are bullies, not just the United States. We U.S. citizens are fucking bullies because we're part of this system. Okay, we take care of our family, great, that's honorable, but we still vote for Joe fucking Biden. That's not honorable. There's no way to justify voting for Joe Biden morally, no matter what. If you're willing to look at the information and get over the cognitive dissonance, and that's where we have to take issue with ourselves when we look in the mirror and with each other. That's where we have to tell each other the hard truths. So we want I'm a baby boomer. So my pension, I have a pension through the state system of higher ed. And it probably is benefiting from these asshole hedge fund managers who invest in student loan debt. Okay, so I'm part of the evil system. I'm a fucking college professor. I have 166 kids in my classes. I pack them in like sardines. I generate over $1 million in tuition every semester. So I'm part of the problem. I'm part of the evil problem. I have a hard time justifying my own place in the machinery. I'm trying to teach people that the machine I'm part of and perpetuating is evil, and I hope, and I'm trying to alleviate my conscience that way. I'm trying to take care of my 5 children. Both Ethan and Emma are going to be at Millersville this year, and they're going to get tuition waivers. I'm trying to keep my job so that I can take care of my family, and other members of my family might need my help this year. It might be a rough year. And so, yeah, I want to do my best. I'm not happy. I'm not sad when I have a pension. I think I deserve my pension. But at the same time, I can't be down with a system that exploits people.
Yeah. I mean, to separate, I think like that's why I wanted to ask. Like, I think it's important. I think it's an important place to address, because that's what a lot of families, especially as they're getting older and in this generation, like that, and they're going to want to say that. They're going to want to say, well, I just want to take care of my family. We didn't have, right? Like, we had hundreds and thousands of dollars of student loan debt. And now that I'm out of that, I don't want to pass that on to my kids. Like, why shouldn't I try to pass this kind of thing along to, why shouldn't I try to pass this along to the next generation, and to stay connected in that way, to what you're saying, it's like I can pass money along to my family and still connect in principle and in action to working class poor people.
Let's say that you don't vote for Biden. You get it, okay? Let's say that you're at least socially conscious enough to know that we can't perpetuate the neoliberal evil. But you almost, not you. I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at myself and everybody who's socially conscious. We socially conscious progressives almost can't justify voting as our only activity. We almost have to look ourselves in the eye. We almost have to protest and strike and get serious, like have, and talk it up with our friends and get other people to strike. Because otherwise we're just going to keep, we'll still be comfortable. We'll still be able to take care of our families, but we're going to end up perpetuating this system that's been in place for at least 40 years that exploits the shit out of our own workers and exploits the shit out of the rest of the world's workers. And if we're not down with that, we're going to actually have to stand up and do something.
Well, one, that's a lot of that is happening now for different reasons.
Defund the police is the most hopeful thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. And they're, gosh, like, there needs to be, there hasn't been a Dr. King-like figure to gain the solidarity of everybody to get behind, because defund the police and still going even to their rallies out here. They've died down significantly, right, since the initial rush, but they're still pushing Black Lives Matter Plaza. It still has people going up and down. Just yesterday, we had people in a truck with the megaphone playing music, with the defund police chants. Some people just freestyling different things, but it's died down, right? It's died down. There was even a time in when it was vibrant, when there was there were food carts along the sides, and they were starting to selling the T-shirts, and there were merchants and markets, and it was almost like amidst the movement. It was similar, in the scriptures where Jesus goes to the temple and he's like, you turn my place of worship into a den of thieves or something like that.
Yeah.
And I played into it. It was like I want my piece of history. I want my piece of what this was and all that. And putting my sign on the gate thing at the White House and seeing the tank or there wasn't a tank there, but seeing the trucks and the I don't know what branch of the military it was there, but seeing their trucks in there, all that stuff, they're like, defund the police is big, but there is too much coercion of people who would still claim to be allies, but they're like, oh, but defund the police is too harsh.
Yeah, fuck them.
Yeah, yes, but we still need numbers. Like that was the thing about that's the thing about a king-like a king-like figure, is that there was a message that he had that everybody was behind. I'm behind defund the police, right?
Yeah, because we need to double down.
because it's like I know what it means, and I have more than 2 cents of brain cells to look past that's a judgment, but on the people, but to look past the surface and say, they're just saying, stop spending so much money on, filling prisons and, battering people and all these harsh police acts, and start putting them in social programming, right? Like that's the basis of what we're saying.
We need to abolish the police, not just defund the police.
A lot of people in the movement are saying that too.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of folks that are saying that, or some folks that are saying that as well. The large and core of the movement is take that money and give it to the people and not, the powers, right? It's like the message is to for some people.
Yeah.
I'm not on board with that, and we talked about that gap before of Black people saying one thing, and then there's someone on the other side. They're like, oh, well, why can't you just listen to the police? Why can't you just change your message?
Yeah, I remember when you said that.
Yeah, and there's that huge gap, and gosh, like in the last few weeks, I had to have that conversation. I thought I was ready to. I'm not. My fatigue came back just like that, right? The fatigue of trying to justify, right? But trying to justify oh, well, let me justify why we're asking for equality in this sense, or let me phrase it for you. But it's a movement that could represent everybody, a movement that everybody could get behind.
That's why Dr. King was killed. Because what you're saying, what you're articulating,
absolutely,
yeah, what you're articulating is dynamite. And if we had a Dr. King figure now who would say, defund the police, abolish the police, you can just see somebody like him or Malcolm X with a megaphone. That's why they fucking killed them. The power of somebody like that to stand up in a crowd in D.C. or Minneapolis and say, no, defund the police isn't going far enough. We need to abolish the police. Not only that, we have to turn this movement into a poor people's movement and actually get people fair wages and actually get people fair health care. As soon as that came out, you'd see the snipers. You'd see the fucking snipers. Because you're right, that's what this moment needs. If you became that person, if people said, Jonathan, hop up on this soapbox and tell us what we need to do, you'd be in the crosshairs. The Secret Service, the Department of Homeland Security, they would know all about you. And if you started to get traction, and the poor people's, if this became a poor people's movement and not just a racial equality movement, and they're related. We talked about that a lot last time, so we don't have to go back over that again.
Overlap.
Yeah. But if that ever happened, you can bet the powers would be horribly threatened by that.
Yeah. I think they're threatened by anything that would disrupt or that would seem to push against their position, right? Either literally, figuratively, in any way. I think they would do anything.
And let's make it clear, that position is to keep workers in their places, in their rightful places. Yeah. And anything that threatens that order, they're gonna clamp right down on it.
Yeah, and I think that the ways that happens, and this is this may go back to some of the political points of for who's in office, things changing covertly and overtly, of who's pushing that message or who pushes that agenda, one way or another, in some way it still gets pushed against the working class poor.
Yep.
Because we seem to always have them, right? We seem to always have that issue, and it is, and then we seem to always have a group of people. It's a psychological portion of oppression. That's a group that says you have to. No, well, it's your fault that you're poor.
And they gaslight you.
You can't. That's where the gas. Yeah, it's your fault. You're poor. Why can't you? Why can't you bootstrap yourself or something?
Yeah, and then they say defund the police. That's going a little too far, isn't it? That's a subtle form of gaslighting. Are you sure you want to push it? Like Nike says, yeah, we need to get the police to be more fair and equitable. But are you really saying we need a federal minimum wage? Isn't that going a little too far? The voices of reason, the voices of incrementalism are enemy voices.
And so a lot are. Well, this is where in my view the public eye portion of this sort of Trumpism plays a large role, because what he represents now, I don't even see it as so much of a political figure. It seems it's coming off like a religion at this point, like the level of dedication and the level of the amount of distortion, the amount of distortion to dismiss the overt action, right? I'm not saying there's not, or there hasn't been any distortion for Obama, or that there's not for Biden, I'm not saying that those don't happen, but it's so overt for somebody to look at you and say, I can shoot somebody in the head and you still vote for me, right? It's like this. No matter what happens, we're going to be behind you. And it's even in the discussion with some of these. There are people that, when I left my hometown, there are people that the only communication that they've had with me since then has been in effort to get me to quiet down about what I say about him, or in an article where he says something about himself, or just a video of him. It's like the only communication I get is about that, and it's such a religious dedication that the devotion is just it's on another level. It's on another level, and I to take that down, I don't know what it would take for that light bulb to go off.
Okay, let's address that, because that's been kind of creeping up all along. Let's say that we took out Trump, and the polls show it's likely that Biden's going to beat Trump. So Biden is in. The desperation doesn't get better, no more than it would have if Hillary had won. We would have poor people in the Rust Belt just as bad off as they are now, because Donald Trump didn't help anybody that he said he was going to help. He helped rich people, but if we got Joe Biden, he's not going to help workers. He's not going to do anything. He's going to vote against Medicare for all. He's going to do stuff. So Trump was a backlash. Trump was a symptom of the system. This system has been going along under Democrat and Republican for 40 years, and so the backlash. How could people vote for Donald Trump? Because he promised to end this horrible system that has been propped up by both parties for the last 40 years. So if we get Biden, he says nothing will change. He tells his donor class nothing will change. We're just going to have more of this same system. Then the unrest gets even more. Instead of Donald Trump next time, you're going to have Ted Nugent. You're going to have somebody worse than Donald Trump. You're going to have, because the poor people are not going to get any relief under a neoliberal president or a neoliberal Congress like we have now. So the problem, and it's not just the United States, all over the world, people are rioting, people are protesting neoliberalism. That's where all the, you look at I don't know if you've seen the green vest or yellow vest movement. I don't know if you've seen Argentina and other South American countries. There are riots all over the fucking world in opposition to neoliberalism, which is basically austerity. And the American people don't know this because our media don't tell us. But you're going to get somebody worse than Donald Trump. Beating Donald Trump, that's nothing. Beating neoliberalism is what we have to do. So getting rid of Donald Trump might make you feel better, but you're not solving the problem.
We're solving some.
You think you are until the next guy comes in after Biden, and Biden's going to be a one-term president. So in 4 years, you'll see how well you solved it by who the Republicans throw at us all. It's not going to be just build the wall. It's going to be pure, full-blown fascism.
I don't think that. Let's see. A lot of the people there's a lot of Trump people that are comfortable and rich that can easily migrate over to Joe Biden, right? There's a lot of that. I still believe there are a lot of people, even the people who are I'll finish the first statement. I still believe there are a lot of people. There are a lot of young people that, similar to what I'm saying, want to get rid of what's happening in public right now. That
of course
are going to push back. That are still going to push back because we don't want Biden either. Like it's like we don't want that. We don't want that to happen. Or not. We don't want that to be the. We don't want that to be the future of our country either. We don't want that to be the sustaining thing. Or maybe the next 4 years, we'll go through and we'll feel the same stuff and we'll feel the same thing. Maybe another candidate will come up, or I don't know. But there's a direction. Like there is a direction with it. Like if Biden's like, I can keep the rich comfortable.
Rural America is why we have Trump, and religious America, and all the things you describe with Trump are true. And those people, so the rural evangelicals and the suburban evangelicals are the ones who are gonna, and the working class rural poor. They're gonna listen to anyone who says Muslims are the problem. They're gonna listen to anyone who says Hispanics are the problem. And so somebody comes in and just keeps catering to the white comfortable people like Biden is gonna do. The riffraff, the rednecks, whatever, the deplorables in Hillary's words, they're gonna come back with a vengeance. It's not just your generation of woke people that you have to deal with. You've got to deal with the people who gave us Donald Trump. They're still going to be there, and they're going to be even more restless if we get another neoliberal president.
And the oh yeah, earlier that when I was I was addressing this, this religious mindset and the and I don't know how to end that. I wasn't just talking about the presidency, right? Like, you said, like, it keeps coming back up. I wasn't just talking about the 4-term or 8-term, which, I mean, we can be honest right now. It's probably not going to happen for 8 terms. Like, by this point, well, I mean, I don't know. We said that before. We
don't know that, but I know you're not just talking about Trump. You're talking about the people who support Trump.
You're addressing a dissonance within. You're addressing a dissonance and a willful, or a willful ignorance within the Democratic Party, and people who are saying that they're against or people who are, with their action and with their vote, are against the working class poor, and you're saying that they're fully doing that with that vote. That is, and I guess I'm weighing that with this, I came in with this sort of religious devotion that Donald Trump has with his core following, that it seems to be very poor working class rule of America.
And there's going to be a backlash, just like there was 4 years ago. If you get Biden, you're going to have a backlash in 4 years that's going to be worse than the one you got the first time.
I believe it's a psychological ground. Like, I believe like it's a psychological ground. I don't know what it is to speak to this group that opens up the mind and can speak directly to it. That doesn't come from whatever leader you decided is your representative, right? Or your principles, or whatever it is. And what I can say in the Democratic circles with this willful ignorance that you're talking about, I see a lot of the willful ignorance that you mentioned, right? And some of it and a lot of it I don't. A lot of it I see that it's that it hasn't sunk in yet. B, some just don't know, right? And C, that some of that is still processing. Like, that's my honest take.
And mainstream media aren't going to help us do that better.
Yeah, I mean, that's a difficult. It is difficult to. If I boil it down, I don't know if you might say, like, the majority of people aren't going to think that way, but if I were to boil it down and to say and to say the either don't either vote nothing, like either vote nothing at all, or maybe write in something for this election in one of these states right? Um, or uh, or just or don't vote. Like, what's the? I guess what like.
I voted Jill Stein last time. I'm probably going to vote Howie Hawkins this time. Or I can leave it blank and vote down ballot. I can leave president blank and vote for progressives down ballot. But I'm not going to vote for a rapist. I'm not going to give my endorsement. I'm not going to look at other people and talk to other people later and say, "Yeah, I voted for that asshole." I'm going to say, "No, I in good conscience abstained from voting for that asshole." I didn't vote for the other asshole, but I don't think voting for any asshole is morally acceptable.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing. I'm guessing you're seeing. You would say I'm giving them a pass.
You're giving them an endorsement.
Hmm?
You're giving them your endorsement. That's what your vote means. You can hold your nose all you want, but if you vote for an asshole and that asshole does asshole things, you endorsed that asshole.
No, that's not the. I mean, the groups that are going towards that vote for whatever mix of reasons, but say the three that I mentioned, right? They see it like it's still like they're still in progress, like that's.
But I didn't vote for them. I didn't endorse them. They're there, but it's not my fault. I didn't vote for them.
Like these are the voters. Like these are like this is like the ignorance or the not knowing with the Democratic Party, like the people that are that would go in to vote Biden, the blue, who still have yet to vote. Well, we all do, but this is like the blue party who's still going to vote, who are likely to vote for Biden because they're saying lesser of two evils, right?
Right.
There's a myriad of reasons, right? I gave you where I'm at, right? Like I expressed my views, and I don't know where some of the others are. I will agree that a large majority is in the place that you are saying, and of comfort and wanting to keep the status quo.
Yep.
I don't disagree with that. Like
I know.
I'm not off. Like I'm not against that. I'm saying that there are some that it's not that black and white. Like it's not like the thinking and the processing of what's happening and of what that is. That thought process is not that black and white, because if it is that black and white for somebody that young, there's the same black and white thinking for people who are on the opposite end of the aisle. It's the same black and white style of thinking, like the same type of cognition. Like
it's cognitive dissonance, isn't it?
If
you know better, if you've got two things in your head that conflict, and you know, okay, all your reasons are good for not voting for Donald Trump. I totally respect all of them. You've got good reasons for not voting for Donald Trump, but I don't think you have any good reasons to vote for Joe Biden. I can't respect any of them. And so that, to me, sounds black and white. People would say, oh, you're a Bernie or Buster. You're a purity test asshole. You're somebody who just is so morally absolute that you can't figure out that we have to be pragmatic here. I said, no, I just don't vote for evil. And you can't justify voting for evil. Nobody can. And so I'd say that you have cognitive dissonance if you can talk yourself into voting for somebody you know is evil. Anyone who authored the crime bill, if you can talk yourself into voting for somebody who authored that crime bill, you're full of cognitive dissonance.
There's a dissonance for anybody who has two things that go against each other. The reasons for not voting, my reasons were, it's not just like, oh, I can't support Trump. I want that out of office. Like, that my expression of him was, I want him out of the office, right? That is my expression. The distortions, the cognitive distortions. One of the major, or one of them is the absolutist, the black and white thinking that it doesn't allow for any complexity at all. That is a literal cognitive distortion. Like it is. Like I'm not making that up. I'm not saying that for the sake of me getting relief. It is just a cognitive distortion. Like the thinking on one hand of and I see that with Trumpisms, right? With I need to hang on to my mindset, and it's all or nothing. And I see that when they finger point and you say, he was a criminal, or if he wasn't, they were going to be criminals anyway, right? and here, it's that. I mean, you're saying the like. I mean, it's 1,000%. Anybody who does any of these things is 1,000% on this side of dismissal. Like
it's not distortion, Jonathan, to say that Biden is evil, to say that voting for him is unconscionable.
No, it's not.
It's not distortion to say that you can't come up with a good reason to vote for Joe Biden.
I did. My reasoning to say that I want Trump out of office, like, and to say that, like, that was my reasoning, and that was my vehicle to do it.
Because Trump is so bad.
The method here in all of the arguments here that you pressing and the pounding, it's the, well, this person 1,000% gone, like awful, the worst. This person 1,000%, like, out the window. All right, their vote, like, so they're out the window. It's 1,000%, and it's the absolutism, like, it's the, like, there was no room. It's impassioned, and
Jonathan. That's a loaded word, absolutism. It's not absolutism to say that Joe Biden is absolutely unacceptable, because he is. That's not distortion. That's the opposite of distortion.
Look, I'm saying that a distortion is to draw a 100% conclusion on on the nature that of everyone. I mean, it was like the, the voters, the reasons, the where they're coming from, who they are, like, and it wasn't just. It's not just Biden. Like, you came back and you said it's not a distortion to say that Biden is evil or that he's wrong. No, he's a jackass, right? Like,
I know you know that.
That comes out of my mouth, right? Like,
I know. Yeah, I know.
But it's distorted if I think that anyone who thinks anything different or does anything that votes in that direction is 1,000% evil as well.
Jonathan, is the Earth flat?
No.
Okay, is it 5,000 years old?
No.
Was there a global flood that ever covered the whole thing up?
No.
Okay, so is it wrong to say those absolutely as fact, and to say that there's no justification to vote for Joe Biden is no less defensible?
Well, one, you're talking about an event that did or didn't take place, and two, you're talking about people's cognitive process for coming to a conclusion of why they're doing something, and then you're talking about the nature of someone's character and how they're and who they are. Like, these are complex things. I'm not trying to take away from you like anything that they're like, hey, well, no, they're actually good guys. You know, if you really give them a chance and sit down with them, right? Like, if you really come to my house in Beverly Hills and eat this dinner with us, and then I can convince you how comfortable we really are. I don't have a position for that. Like, I don't have a stake in that fight. But the historical fact versus the character of a human being those are very different things. And for me to dismiss in that same light, for me to dismiss somebody that says the earth is flat and to come at me, for me to dismiss them and to say they're a complete idiot, as much as that would be publicly acceptable, I can't dismiss them and say they're 100% a complete idiot, as much as I want to.
Can you say they're completely wrong?
About that? Yes.
Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Okay, yes.
Completely wrong.
I can say they are completely wrong.
That's absolutism, but it's still true.
All right. So maybe it's not a distortion about the nature of who they are. It's not a distortion about.
I don't care who they are. I just want to say that I mean, whatever process you use to come to your conclusions, no matter how complex human psychology is, I don't care. I just want to be able to say, and it is fair to say that the earth is not flat, and it is fair to say that neoliberalism is a horrible deal for the American worker, and no matter how bad Trump is, we can't use him as an excuse not to get rid of neoliberalism. People will come at me. You know they will. All the way until November, they're going to come at me with vote shaming, with all this, hemming and hawing and weeping and gnashing of teeth. But you got to vote for Biden because, Trump is so terrible. I'm going to hear it over and over and over.
Well, they have.
But what I'm going to say all the way through is you can't vote evil. You just can't. I don't care. You got to look at yourself in the mirror. If you care about poor people, you can't vote for Biden, period. And that's the end of the story. And they'll say, oh, but you're a purity test asshole. You're a moral absolutist. You're not pragmatic here. You're not thinking, in terms of SCOTUS picks or whatever else they'll say that's fashionable at that moment. And I don't care. It is that clear. We can't keep voting for neoliberalism if we want to expect it to go away. We can't endorse it. I think it
The
is that clear, just as clear as that the Earth is not flat.
the the people who would come to you to take away your choice are distorted as well,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Like, it's your choice. Like, that's, I think that, I don't, like, I'm not, I don't have any, effort to take, to remove, uh, what your choice is, because that is, like, that's also the distortion.
One of
And
my
that,
choices is going to be to vote shame the fuck out of people who think they can vote for Joe Biden in good conscience. I'm going to vote shame. I'm going to vote shame people who think they can vote for Joe Biden and be morally sound.
Well, I mean, it's you're doing, it's doing the same thing that you don't want. I mean, well, A, I know, but B, like, it's doing the same thing that you don't want coming at you. Like,
You're right. You're right. Absolutely. Damn straight.
You'll take it on. Yeah, you'll.
I'm still going to vote shame people who think they can vote for evil and look themselves in the eye.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. You can say I'm distorting or whatever else you want.
I am not. I do not want to. I'm not. I don't want to take your decisions away from you. Like, I don't have an egg, or whatever the term is. I don't have an interest in doing that.
I know what you mean. You know, when people are going to go on strike, say we were fellow union members, say we worked in the same occupation, and you said, you know, I'm gonna walk across the picket line and I'm gonna go to work tomorrow. Or say I did. Let's say that I'm telling you that I'm gonna cross the picket line, and you're a staunch union guy, and you wanna hold me to the principles that you know I believe in. But I have a family and I'm feeling weak. I haven't saved up my war chest like I should have. And I'm saying, Jonathan, I can't do it. I'm too weak. I don't feel the strength I need to feel to follow through with this strike. This is not a trivial conversation that we're going to have. You're going to tell me some powerful things about why I shouldn't go out on strike for any reason, why I shouldn't be a scab. I'd say that what we're up against in this election cycle is every bit as important. And that's why I feel justified in telling, like, if you're telling me why I'm a scab and I shouldn't be a scab, those are strong words between two friends, but I think you're justified in telling me that I shouldn't go out on strike. You don't want to take away my choice, but you sure as fuck don't want me to go across a picket line. I think it's that important. You should tell me not to strike. Or you should tell me not to cross the picket line. You should tell me to honor the strike.
What I can, I was going to say, what I can tell you is, gosh, what was the last one? It was called the fallacy of change. When pressed to make change, well, no, I can't fully make that argument because I didn't fully process that out yet. There's some of the distortions that I don't fully get yet, so I can't even make that argument.
I don't think this is distortable. I think it's absolutely clear cut that you shouldn't cross a picket line, and I think it's absolutely clear cut that you can't keep voting for evil and expect it to stop being evil.
Yes, I'm saying that this is clear to you. I'm saying these things are clear to you, and they're not clear to everybody. And so you're going to go and make sure that it is, you're going to make sure it is to them. And for some, it may shake them loose. And for some, they're going to hang on to their, they're going to hang on their right to make their choice. And some are just going to hang on. Some are just going to hang on to what they want to be comfortable with.
Right. Very good. Absolutely right.
But at the end of the day, they have to make the decision. They have to make the decision for themselves. Like everybody has to.
Yep.
Like this is I mean, for me to say, you shouldn't, or this, like, I'm expressing to you, like, I'm expressing to you is much like where I am in the process, like this, like, not attaching to the whatever with outcomes, like, these are the lessons I'm learning this week, right? And there are probably places. There are probably places that I still am attached to, and where I'm not applying this. But this is what I'm learning, and this is the thing that is useful to me at this point in my life right now. So this is genuinely what I have to offer, right? And I know that you're giving me what you genuinely and lovingly have to offer right now. It is, it's been built, a little bit longer, right? You've chipped away at yours for a little bit more, for a little bit longer time, and I mean, you see it, you see it clearly. Like you have your conclusions. Some of I don't think everyone does. Like I don't think everyone is that clear. Like again, some are, and they just want to be comfortable, right? There's a lot of those. I just I just don't think it's like that for everyone.
I think you nailed it. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah. Well,
2 hours.
Yeah, it looks good. I'm not gonna edit it. I'm gonna put up the link to the. If you give me your videos, I'll put the links to your videos, and I'm gonna link to the article that we started with about cognitive dissonance. But otherwise, I'm not gonna mess with it. I'm just gonna because different people might get different things out of the conversation. It'll be also on podcast, so okay. People are more forgiving of longer formats. There, sometimes Joe Rogan's podcasts go this long, so we'll let people take from it what they will. Yeah. And if there's any last, I mean, you said you had a lot of juice, and there's a lot more that we didn't say about other topics that you probably still want to say. So we can come back anytime, any Sunday or whenever you want.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say my juice is drained.
Yeah. No, you did great.
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, but if you have any last words, go for it. But you sound like you concluded things well. I think you already had the last word, and I totally agree with how you concluded it. So I think we're good for this time. So for our viewers, I hope you enjoyed Jammin with Jonathan the second time it happened, and I hope it'll happen many more times in the future. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.